Good Monday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. Thank you kindly for joining us. It's a pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network. Today, we're presented by Keller Williams Alliance. Just a trusted business and brand and team in real estate here in Central Virginia and Shenandoah Valley. Keller Williams Alliance. We're very grateful for your support with all the shows and content we do on the I Love CVille Network. And you, the viewer and listener, can shape the discussion by offering your thoughts and perspective in the feed, and we'll relay them live on air across the network, which is every social media platform known to mankind. And in some cases, for instance, Facebook and Twitter, we're on 15 different Facebook pages, 15 different Twitter accounts, 3 different Instagram accounts. We're everywhere, baby. Judah Wickhauer, let's go to the studio camera first, and let's welcome Nikki Chambless before the two-shot to the program. Nikki, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Monday. I am great. I'm really excited to be here, which is all the time I'm here, I'm excited. But it's been a few weeks, so I've been missing this.
We've missed you. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, highlights of your weekend.
So I had a gig on Saturday. It was great at Eastwood Farm and Winery. It's my first time there, and it was wonderful. And they have the best wine slushies, so highly recommend that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just some time with family, catching up with the kids, chilling a little bit, house stuff, because normal life still happens.
Fantastic. Neil Williamson, welcome to the program. Neil, hello, and thank you kindly for joining us. So the weekend treated you well?
It did. It was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
You would recommend the winery?
Yes, I would. Eastwood, yes.
Tell us the highlight.
So
besides the slushie,
I was like, the slushie and being able to perform and having a great crowd. Like, it was so fun. Yeah. I mean, there were various things going on. Bachelorette parties were happening, just people hanging out for the weekend. A whole table was down from Maryland, and I ended up chatting with them a lot. We sang happy birthday for one of their peoples. It was just so much fun.
So lead vocals, the front lady.
So one of. So yeah, cake fight. Yep. I do a lot of the singing, but really of our 5-person band, 4 of us sing.
Okay.
So it's real fun, which means I also get to harmonize some, which is new and wonderful. And not harmonizing, but being in a band where I actually get to harmonize with someone else. Cake fight is my first round of really getting to do that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
She is a Renaissance woman, not only a mom of 2.
Yes.
Not only
I had to think about that.
A real estate investor,
yes.
A team leader, a realtor. She's in a band, and she helps manage quite a few agents. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, can you give some insight to the viewers and listeners into the team leader position? Oh,
so that team leader role, a lot of what I do some recruiting, I do coaching, my top 20%. I help those especially who are working to build teams. That's one of my go-to, making sure that they're lined up for their best success. Growing agents and helping them reach their goals, and that's a really key thing. It's one of the things I really loved being an agent it was about my goals. I didn't have a quota. I didn't have some unreasonable expectations or what I felt, right? Because the whole reason I got into real estate, a lot of it was to be able to do what I wanted to do. So being able to help others do that is pretty awesome.
Well, put in perspective how many agents are under the KWA umbrella. Quite a few.
About 120 on our roster.
So 120.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, yeah.
And she interfaces often with many of these 120.
Yes.
So this is a great point of reference for how the market is doing, because you have bigger teams, you have individual agents working by themselves, you have folks that have been doing this for generations, folks new to the game. You literally
those who are in training and being handheld so that they can learn, which is awesome.
You're the proverbial water cooler of real estate here, right? Where people come and talk to you and they share the good, the bad, and ugly.
So to some
degree, the confessional of real estate.
To some degree,
right?
Most definitely, yes. That does happen. So, and and sometimes a touch point, because I do have a lot of these conversations. Sometimes it's hey, Nikki, this is what's happening? Is this what should be happening? Is this normal? And I get that. Like, having that touchstone is really helpful and important yes, this is basically what everyone else is experiencing too. And here are some really great ways to handle it, right?
So 120 under the purview of Quentin Beckham and KWA. Nikki Chambless, certainly atop the totem pole there. What's the mood on the street? What's the temperature?
So I think it's really interesting, right? It's almost like a bookend pause. In March of 2020, we had this whole pause that was, out of our control. There was nothing we could do, and we were all sitting wondering what was going to happen. And then the industry blew up, right? really quickly, we were able to get back to business. The pause really for many realtors who were on it and waiting to get back in was fairly short. And if we were smart, what we did is we took that pause and we figured out what we were going to do. We were re-aiming, we were focusing, we were making sure we were ready so that when we had the go, we were ready to roll. And truly, that was my best year ever as a real estate salesperson. And then switching to this, now we're on this other end of, yes, it's still COVID life, but it's very different. This is the first summer that people as a whole are out traveling the way they are, right? It's kind of like the first opportunity that most of the world is like, oh, okay, now's the time to go do the things. It's also a shift in the market, right? The rates are going up. So there's a little bit of a, oh, okay, I can breathe a little. That's great. And it's another time to go, okay, so in real estate, when times are really great, you can cast a net. A lot of times business comes to you if you're out there and people know you're doing it. Now we're shifting to what Quentin likes to say, spearfishing, right? Now we're like, okay, so how am I focusing while I've been crazy busy? Have I been in touch with my people really well? Could I be better at that, right? What are the things that I need to really zone in on and focus to make sure I'm being the best trusted advisor in real estate that people can go to? So that's kind of what's happening right now. The open houses are slowing down. I actually was just texting with someone that I talked to on Friday who was doing that kind of touchstone, and I took a glance at her listing and we talked about it, and we talked about maybe her guiding that seller of, hey, you know, this is a price you guys discussed 3 months ago, and these are the other houses that have sold recently. This may be a thing where that seller is going to need to reevaluate just a little bit. And I texted with her this morning and she said, hey, the open houses, this is what happened. And you're right, I was able to have that conversation after that open house feedback with the seller to be able to help him kind of see where we are. Because we're running into that. Some people are seeing and they're adjusting, right? Especially when advice is given really well. Yeah. Some people are going to need more than great advice to be able to wrap their heads around, oh my gosh, okay, I may have missed the peak, depending on what price range your house is in right now, right?
So DOMs are longer, days on market are longer. Yes. Interest rates are at a, call it 4 or 5 year high.
Yes.
We have buyers and sellers out of market on vacation.
Yes.
Okay. Very synonymous with the buying and selling patterns of 2019, where summer was oftentimes a slower time because folks were just out of market. We're seeing that now. Which KPI, which key performance indicator are you following the closest? Is it the rates? Is it the DOMs? Is it seasonal? I mean, are we expecting a surge come fall? I mean, what are you following?
So I can't just follow one.
Sure.
Because if I'm only following one key, I'm not getting a really good picture at all. So the interest rate is definitely something I'm following. Those days on market, that is really important. And what those open houses look like, that foot traffic and how many people are interested, how many calls an agent's getting. That's a thing that I think sometimes people don't pay enough attention to. But really, open house traffic, that's a really great indicator to watch, no matter what kind of market we're in.
And what are we seeing from open house traffic?
So it's slower. It's definitely a lot slower. Instead of it being so booked that you couldn't get to a house, right, which it was not that long ago, now what we're finding is there are people showing up, there are people interested, but it's much more, the people showing up are more relaxed. The agents are able to be a little more relaxed with these open houses they're doing, give a little more time and attention, maybe even find a buyer they can help, right? And it's not chaos, which I think is really nice across the board, right? There are some negatives to the shift, but for the most part, it's taking a level of what many had found chaotic out of that. And hopefully they're able to structure their business and kind of keep things going really well. I think most people are.
Kelsey's sharing a link from Yahoo that was released yesterday, Yahoo Finance, about U.S. housing market going pretty cold right now. And this is a macro analysis, certainly not one to Central Virginia. Yeah. We talk often on the show how Central Virginia might be a little bit more insulated versus some macro trends here. The national data in comparison to Central Virginia, how do you see it comparing or contrasting?
Well, so we are a different area. We are not the broader population. It's kind of like taking like Orlando and trying to compare them to, except they're more extreme, right? In any given situation, they are not the norm. We are also not the norm. We have a lot more stability in our local economy. So being able to evaluate that local economics as far as Charlottesville, Albemarle, And stretching that out. Okay, so what does Harrisonburg look like? What does Stanton look like? How are we all impacted? So yes, it is slower. But to me, like I said, that's kind of a nice, okay, take a deep breath. Now we can get back more to business as normal. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Yeah, we've talked about it on the shows before. We've got NGIC, we've got UVA, we have Centera, we have a lot of the contractor companies, we have quite a few tech, we've got quite the tech community. There's so much here that adds that stability. So even like in March of 2020, a lot of areas were struggling at a level that we did not experience. Yes, there was struggle, but we have this different aspect of some really great stability. And when it comes to the housing market, those same aspects that add stability also create situations where we have people who have to move on a regular basis. We are not going to stop selling homes, especially because we have that transitory nature of some of these aspects. That NGIC, those people are going to need to move every 2 to 3 years usually. The JAG school, we've got people moving through there, and sometimes they buy homes, sometimes they don't. One of my last deals in 2020 was a JAG school student who wanted to invest. And he found a property, and it was great. He lived there while he was here, and now he has an amazing investment property. So there's a lot going on there.
Philip Dow, welcome to the program. We've dubbed him the king of Scottsville. Vanessa Parkhill's watching. She's the queen of Earlysville. Welcome, Vanessa, to the show. We have, man, I hope I don't mess your name up too much, but I know you watch the show from time to time. Yukulmana de Dawson Angeli, who works at Trump Winery and I believe is watching over there. I'm sorry for messing up your name. I wanted to acknowledge you because I know you watch the show so often. So we recently had, or Keller Williams recently had, kind of like a team meeting, an award show.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
Oh, is that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
so
that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
We still have some seats available for the afternoon, open to realtors.
Right. So the first part is Keller Williams only. The afternoon is open to the entire realtor population.
And we have a networking event after over at Matchbox.
Right, and a networking event at Matchbox in Stonefield. The event at Hillsdale. I would imagine as part of this. How do you characterize this? What is this?
What's going on?
Is it a party? I mean, how do you characterize this?
So the afternoon, is that what we're focused on right now?
The whole
thing?
Yeah.
Well, so the morning, this is our second year of having this annual award ceremony the way that we are. Last year, we did it as a picnic. We were still coming out of COVID life, trying to be safe. All that open air, a lot of heat. This year, we're doing it in the AC. Just a really great life decision. And just taking a look. So one of the things that I'm going to do is be speaking in the morning saying, hey, this is where we're going. This is our, our listings compared to a year ago and where we are and how we're looking and celebrating the wins because there are a lot of wins and we want to celebrate those. Quentin's going to talk about kind of where we're going and some vision and probably the market a little bit. And then we're going to celebrate our agents and hand out awards and just have a little bit of a party, which is fun and amazing. And it's needed. I mean, they work so hard and they do amazing things. And real estate being that life-changing career, if you want to call it that, I don't know, passion is really more accurate, right? Is just mind-blowing, and seeing it in real life with people being awarded for certain levels of achievement, there's just nothing that compares to that. So then we're going to break for lunch because not only do we have to eat, but realtors like some food. It's a known thing. If you didn't know that and you're trying to network with realtors, now you know. You're welcome.
So a lot of the some of the KW agents are on the younger end.
We have a variety of ages.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with your roster. You have a lot of diversity in age at KWA. Those that are newer to the game have not seen a bear market before.
Yes.
In inventory, I'm talking units sold here. Units sold in 2022 are looking like it's going to be a bear market versus 2021. Yeah. 20% or more units sold, less units sold. How are they going to manage this? What's the advice you're relaying to these agents? Because for a lot of them on the KWA roster, it's only been a bull market.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been the best time ever to sell real estate. Now we're heading into
since I've been in.
And how long have you been in?
December, well, basically January of 2017.
Okay, so you've been in the game 5 years and change.
Yeah.
You've had the best
plus.
You've had the best bear market run in Central Virginia real estate history.
And it's been amazing.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
We're seeing signs that bull market, the best bull market run, we're seeing signs that bull market is potentially over and it's heading to a bear market.
Yes. And
Thoughts?
So I'm really proud of our agents because what I am seeing is they are aware, and yes, for some, especially depending on how long they've been doing it or how they generally roll with these things, there's a little bit of nervousness, but what that energy is being funneled into is, what can I do? What do I need to do to market-proof my business? And that is the conversation that is happening nonstop right now in our office, is training is surrounded around what can I do to market-proof my business, the one-on-one sessions that are happening, the coaching, the business planning. It's, hey, this is what I need to do. And people are leaving those meetings and doing it, right? And that's amazing to me because there's a lot of coaching that goes on out in the world, consulting, however you want to call it, workshopping, and people leave, and as soon as they leave the door, it's out of sight, out of mind. But what I am seeing people do is really pay attention and really being aware of where we are in the market and where they need to be in their business to succeed, to not just survive this shift, but to thrive in it. And there's no reason they can't do that. And it's amazing. Like they're doing wonderful with that.
Do you have any, how often do you hear this? Rates are rising, DOM's longer, maybe I shouldn't be selling my house because I'm not sure what I'm going to buy. What is it I'm going to buy? Can I afford the next house if I sell mine now?
But that's no different than the last 2 years.
Rates were a lot lower the last 2 years. I mean, you're
and
talking,
the competition was much higher.
You're talking a 2x difference in rate. The most important thing for buying a house is the interest rate. Because that determines your payment. And
you say that, but also availability of inventory.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're not going to get impacted by rate if you don't have a home to buy.
But to me, there's no difference in, yes, the way we explain that conversation is different.
Yeah. I mean, it's considerably more expensive to own a $400,000 home now than it was last year. We're talking 6% versus 3%. Oh,
roughly. Absolutely. Well, and part of that, we've talked about this before. You want to, date the rate, marry the house, right? That's really important.
So she's saying refinance.
In the future, absolutely. Yeah. Or let's just say, worst case scenario, rates don't get better, right? Well, then you got in at the low point. Not the lowest point possible, but you can't go back in time. You figure that out, you let me know. Also, don't mess up my history. But really, if you buy a house right now, worst case scenario, this is the lowest rate you get and you win because that's the lowest rate and you're good to go. And really, yes, they are higher than we've experienced in the last many years, let's say 5, but they're still really low. So what you need to do is kind of shift your thinking around that. What do I need to do? Maybe saving up a little bit so that you've got a larger down payment so that your monthly budget, and regardless, still what you're doing is you are locking things in. You are locking in now a more fixed expense, not completely, right? Because taxes change. But for the most part, you're stabilizing an expense as part of your budget. And from a financial perspective, that's a really key important thing that I think people miss often. And I'm still going to stand by, I don't think it's that much harder than it was a year ago or 2 years ago because it was so competitive. The reason behind it has shifted, but I don't think it's gotten harder. Does that make sense?
I appreciate the positive perspective from you, and I know the agents are going to come with the positive perspective on this show here. Daniel Pettit says, what time does the Open to the Realtor portion of tomorrow's event start?
12 o'clock.
Okay.
Just let me know if you're going to be there. That's the lunch.
So Dan Pettit, if you want lunch on KWA.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on our sponsor, our insurance company.
There we go. So 12 o'clock tomorrow. Dan Pettit, Mustache Dan Pettit, you are welcome there. He wants to know as well, how have things changed in the last 2 months from a price reduction standpoint? He's seeing price reductions.
Yes, we are definitely seeing that. And I think some of that is the movement of the market immediately. And some of that is those sellers that we were just talking about who are having a harder time with listening to that great advice that they're getting. And so they're still listing above what agents are recommending, which leads to a price reduction and often leads to having to receive an offer that's less than you could have started with if you had just listened to that great advice.
More comments coming in.
Awesome.
This is from Jonathan. Jonathan says, so do you expect the fall to be different than now? Because I'm looking at the inventory and it's stale, expensive, and not moving.
So hold on, I'm going to see my day. I'm going to do a week at a glance really quick. Let me update that. So fall, I almost feel like we might be moving back a little more to our normal feel where spring is a little busier. Summer has a small little lull and the end of summer picks up a little. And then in fall when everybody's going back to school, a little bit of a lull, winter time slower. I don't know for sure, But I would be surprised if that's not what we experience. I just think truly, I think we're going back to, it will never go back to normal, right? But we're much closer to that. So I think, if anything, that giving a little bit of a reliability and dependability of what's happening will be nice for many, especially when you're trying to celebrate Christmas and you're not going to be out competing for a house on Christmas Day, because that was definitely happening, and that is not ideal. We should be able to take that time for our family. And I don't mean agents, I mean the buyers and sellers. Agents, we do what we need to do and we make those decisions. That's part of us running our business. But from that buyer and seller perspective, having people need to yank out of all of their holidays and the times that they would really rather spend time with family, that can be really stressful, and that is not ideal.
Neil Williamson, we'll get to your comment here in a matter of moments. Comments coming in on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, which I'll get to in moments. Also a DM on LinkedIn for Nikki Chambless. Why don't we go to the DM on LinkedIn from Andrea Chen first. Jerry, I love the content that you create here. Please ask your guest if she expects rates to go even higher in the fall, because it looks like the Fed's got half a basis point or a full basis point increase planned for the future.
I mean, truly, what she is saying is the same thing that I'm saying, and we can speculate all day long and be wrong.
So that would take it over 6 then.
That is what that looks like.
Yeah, we're looking at probably a mid-6 potentially for rates on a 30 fix with great credit. So you're talking about in the low on a 30 fix in the pandemic was what? What was the lowest you saw?
Oh gosh,
with great
I don't even
credit.
know.
Did you see like a 285?
Probably. I was going to say below 3. I just don't know which exact point. Yeah, below 3.
Yeah, so 285
with really
in the
great
pandemic.
Credit. And we're talking 30-year, not 15.
Yeah, 30-year fix.
Ball game.
Right. Yeah, 30-year fix, 285 in the pandemic. If the Fed does this half point or full point increase to combat inflation, we're looking at rates then plus 6 on a 30 fix with good credit. That means the rate's essentially 2x plus this fall. So her question, and she follows up by saying, what's the cause and effect of this?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing is it is cooling the market, right? It is that along with other things, but I think that the main impact right now is that interest rate increase. And really the things we need to be looking at are what we talked about, right? Maybe having that down payment, maybe looking at an ARM. I don't have a ton of details as to what's available about those, so I'm not going to try to make stuff up around adjustable rate mortgages, and yet taking a look, just see what's out there, see who's providing some really great options for that, right? Maybe even taking a look at if you're able to do a 15-year. I understand that that is not something most people are able to do, but you're able to get a lower rate by a decent amount, usually in any market, and you now own that home in 15 years.
15 years is what we did on our house, where we currently live in. The 15-year does raise the monthly payment, but if you extrapolate payments over the course of 15 versus 30, the reduction in interest payments is disgustingly ridiculous.
I wish I knew those numbers off the top of my head.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars we're saving in interest. Hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing a 15-year versus 30-year. That's a legitimate statement right there. Neil Williamson, when does the spring market start in 2023?
Oh,
Nikki
that
Chambless.
is a great question, Neil. Oh, man. Okay.
Neil, do you think that we'll see a surge? I'm curious of your take, Neil. We respect your opinion. Neil Williamson's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. Neil, do you expect a surge in movement at all in Q3 and Q4 when families are back in school and back from summer vacation? Do you see an uptick in volume in sales or Q3 or Q4? Or is your comment alluding to slowdown because of increasing rates for the rest of the year and potentially 2023 the uptick as maybe rates come back down? Time will tell. Is that what you're alluding to, Neil? First, his question, when does the spring market spring in 2023?
So I think any spring market for any year, right? Let's take out the last couple of years. Even before COVID hit, the spring market was starting earlier and earlier every year. Actually, during COVID, there just wasn't one. There was just nonstop market for the most part, right? A couple of exceptions. But pre-COVID, the spring market was starting as soon as Christmas ended, basically, or as soon as the new year happened. So I think that some of that will stay consistent. I think that the pace of that will slow a little bit, right? But oftentimes, realtors are wanting to connect with their sellers and get them really well prepped way before that house is going to be listed. Right? I think most realtors need at least a 2-week turnaround. If you're not doing that, I don't know how you're offering in all those services that you need to be offering, right? So And for many people, if there's stuff they need to do to the home and you need to be able to get a contractor in there to take a look at things, and it's really hard to get a contractor within a certain amount of time, if you're thinking about selling your home in spring of 2023, January is the time that conversation really needs to happen. And maybe even now to make sure that you have the home repairs you need or whatever that is. At the point you're thinking about it is the time you talk to your realtor.
This link has been shared by The Real Deal. Jonathan shares it. It's therealdeal.com. It's a real estate news website. Jonathan, I enjoy this website as well when preparing for this show. And he highlights 2 paragraphs from therealdeal.com. He says, prospective home buyers gearing up to beat out the competition can start to breathe easier. The level of competition on home offers written by Redfin agents dropped below 50% for the first time in more than 2 years, according to a report. The bidding war rate stood at 49.9% in June, the lowest Redfin has recorded since May of 2020. So his question for you is, bidding wars, are they now a thing of the past, and how much leverage does the buyer truly have, is Jonathan's question.
So the other side of that coin is that with rates going up, that will balance that out a little bit. Is it the same bidding war world that we have seen? Absolutely not. So it depends really, because even before COVID, in that lower price point, I had a townhome in Briarwood that listed before COVID live that was incredibly competitive. It was crazy booked for open houses. It went under contract in that first weekend, and it was in that lower price range. So it was ridiculously competitive at COVID life level before COVID life because it was in that price point. Will we stay there? Possibly not, probably not even. And is there still a need for competition? Yes, especially when we're talking about certain price points. If it's that mid-range where everybody's competing for, that's going to be a level of competition potentially. And in that lower price point, right now, that competition is lower depending, because one of the things that buyers are starting to take a look at that is adding to this pause is not only that interest rate, but hey, okay, they're looking at the prices just like we are. Our client is smarter than they've ever been, and I'm grateful for that. That actually is an amazing thing. It means that the advice that agents are able to give is just a whole nother level of conversation, right? But being able to take a look and say, oh, okay, I'm really interested. This is the lower price. I want to be competitive, and also I don't think that seller knows where the market is, and I think it's listed too high. So right now, that is impacting things in a really large way.
More questions coming in. Nikki Chambless, a valuable resource for the community. Neil says, historically, the spring market is higher volume than the other seasons. He's exactly right. This is an interesting question. This is from Sally, who watches the program. Sally, where are you watching? Are you in city of Charlottesville? Is it Johnson Village? I believe, Sally. Let us know, please. She asked affordability. She says, please ask Nikki's take on affordability now. Is it more affordable now for a first-time home buyer to buy something because there are less buyers in the pool to purchase the house we're going after? Or is it less affordable because, as you said, Jerry, the rates have 2x'd? It's a great question.
Unfortunately, it is not any better because of the interest rates going up.
It's probably worse.
Truly, because the options there are lower. You've got to have more room on your budget to buy that home. I'm not sure yet if it's worse, right? Because of the slowing of the market, that does leave some breathing room, that leaves some opportunity for people to come in and make purchases. And I think that it's really important, those buyers that, I have some on my radar even still from when I was actually in sales, that I will refer to some of my agents to help. But we still have conversations on a regular basis. Most of them are my friends. And so when we're talking about these things, trying to encourage them to really find ways to have a down payment so that they can balance that interest rate and still stay within their budget is a really important conversation. And then hopefully people are in a place where they're getting raises yearly, right? So that's going to help a little bit, but I don't think that helps the way people tend to default in their thinking. Right? And this is where you need to have intelligent conversations around what this really is and what this really means for your specific situation.
John Blair, watching on LinkedIn. We love you, JB. We love when you watch the program, John Blair. How do you characterize these price reductions that are happening? Is it buyer demand diminishing, or is it coming out of the gate priced incorrectly? Because, I mean, you go back to that article Jonathan shared, and I'll give you a statistic here. This is from The Real Deal, who's citing statistics from Redfin.
Yeah.
The dropping bidding war rate is the latest sign of a slowing housing market. Redfin reported that 60,000 home purchase agreements were canceled in June. 60,000 nationally, equivalent to roughly 14.9% of homes that went under contract in the month. So we're seeing home contract cancellations happening.
Yes.
We're seeing price reductions happening. Is the price reduction happening because of mispricing or because of diminished buyer demand?
I think it's a combination, right? I think it depends. We are in the midst, we are actively, actually for months now, we have been actively experiencing a shift. No matter how much preparation you do for that, you're going to see price reductions in this kind of shift. That's part of the shift. That is part of everyone realizing, hey, this is what's happening. And I love how that mentioned the, well, I don't love it, right? But deals going through, the less competition. If you start with that initial interest in showings and interest at open houses, that leads to those things. That leads to less offers. That leads to deals being a little more likely to fall through, whereas before, people were willing to waive all the things in some cases. And now that it's not happening, now home inspections are happening. And
contingencies are back.
Contingencies
Closing
are back.
costs coming back?
Some, yes. It's still a little on the fence. But then again, I also know agents who are getting that even during the crazy, right? And those were the exception, not the rule. Now we're going back to that being much more normal. I think that's going to be built back in. People are still a little hesitant to accept that as sellers. And that's going to be part of that shift that we're seeing.
What I'm fearful of, and I hope, and Neil Williamson, I hope this does not happen. My hope is that government officials, elected officials that have very much the responsibility to potentially increase our housing stock in Albemarle County, City of Charlottesville, and Central Virginia. My hope is they're not seeing this slowing market as a leverage point to not expand the developmental area.
Oh gosh, no, I hope not, because we still need more houses.
Oh my
we
gosh.
still need more affordable housing. I mean, or affordable housing period, if you really want to have that conversation, right?
Yeah. Carol Thorpe, welcome to the program. She's the queen of Jack Jewett. She's watching the program in the Jack Jewett district. If you guys have comments or questions, please put them in the feed. We'll relay them live on air. Is there a portion of the market price point that is still red hot? For example, is the jumbo market, how cool is that? How soft is that? Is the luxury market now fairly soft? I mean, you're looking at some of these high dollar neighborhoods and the inventory just is not moving in these high dollar neighborhoods. I mean, $1 million plus, some of the key neighborhoods around Central Virginia, they are not moving.
Well, so remember pre-COVID, the idea of the luxury market moving any faster than, I don't know, molasses was mind-blowing. That was already historically expected to be a slower market. That was its nature. So now that is moving back more toward that normal. It is now slower. The fact that it blew up the way it did and they were going off the shelves like hotcakes, like a lower priced home, was incredible, truly incredible, and an indicator of the craziness that the last 2 years have been, right? That was not anything close to normal or expected. So now that's cooling down, just like everything is. I do think that mid-priced area as far as homes go.
Below jumbo.
Below jumbo.
Okay.
That's still going to, well, because that's often when people are transitioning to and from the area. Forest Lakes, that's one of those neighborhoods, right? A lot of people want to move to, and sometimes the transitory people are selling to leave.
Yeah.
So that kind of
Redfields, Forest Lakes, those neighborhoods are always hot.
Families where you've got a dual income, you've got kids, and you've got some stability of income. You're getting yearly raises.
So that's like the 350 to 5.25.
Maybe even a little higher.
Okay, 350 to like 575.
6.
Yeah, I mean 6 in Redfields is going to be.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just thinking as far as the broader picture, not the specific neighborhood. Sorry.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. So, I mean, to really put this in perspective, you know, and this is me talking, this isn't you talking. I have a little bit more leeway because I'm not a realtor, not licensed, so I can talk about individual listings. A good example is the listing that's currently in Farmington. I mean, you talk about the highest dollar neighborhood in the area. I think Farmington certainly embodies that statement. There's a home that's active. It's the only listing in Farmington right now. And to put it in perspective, this home was listed for sale on March 29th of this year. By the 31st, so not even 2 days, the home went under contract. So by the end of March, 2 days after listing,
Okay.
a home with a $2,300,000 price tag was under contract in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
The people who purchased the home, they had a change of life circumstances and now had to sell the home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They buy the home, it closes in May, they're like, hey, we can't buy here, we can't live here anymore, change in life circumstances, now they're trying to sell it. They put it on the market. Remember, in March, this home at $2.3 million went under contract in less than 48 hours. Now we're in July, and the DOM is 40 days on market. You're talking from March to July, 48 hours under contract. Now in July, the same home is over 40 days DOM.
But remember, the unreasonable situation there was it going under contract immediately. That was the crazy. 40 days on market for, yeah, but 40 days on market for that home historically is not abnormal at all, right? So we have to really shift where we're thinking and realize, oh, okay, this really is happening. This was expected though. No one was saying that that crazy was going to last forever. We didn't know when it was going to chill out, but we knew it had to.
Do you give consultation or advice to folks that say, sounds like I missed my chance to sell my house? What do you say to those people? Kevin Higgins, we'll get to your comments.
Oh man, okay. It really depends on what they need and what they want, what they're looking for. And I will say my go-to default for solving challenges as often as I can is to keep it as an investment. And if you're looking to buy your next one and keep this as an investment, because renters still need to rent just as much as buyers still need to buy, right? And if they're looking at selling, if that's really where they want to go, what I would love to do is be able to troubleshoot that. And what my agents do is they troubleshoot that. Hey, what are your concerns? And then you address those. My goal when I did consultations directly was not to convince them to do anything. My goal was to figure out what it is they want and need and help them achieve that, just like I do with my agents with their businesses.
Kevin Higgins, got a question for you specifically. It's a great question. We've dubbed him the King of Greenwood. How do you take care of yourself, Nikki, during this time of uncertainty in your business?
Oh,
great
my
question.
Goodness. Yes,
He's wondering about your quality of life there, Chambless.
Well, and so for me, I'm a little different. So, having a concert on Saturday and being able to go make music is a huge part of that.
Right.
Making sure I have time with my kids. Yeah. Having that time with my kids, even though sometimes it's hectic and my elders, they work different schedules, it's still really, really important, right? That's incredibly important. One of these weekends we need to have that movie afternoon and go see the new Minion movie if it's still at Alamo, right? And for my agents especially, because they're working these real estate sales businesses, I'm no longer directly doing that, so I'm in a slightly different situation, and yet I'm still doing the same things I'm recommending my agents do, just from a brokerage perspective and not an agent perspective, and that is taking a look. So one of the things is, what are your expenses? Because most people have expenses that they really don't need, and truly with as busy as it's been, it probably was not important enough to take a look at them. I do that in my own, even personal. When it's busy, I'm just like, oh, I'll let that go. Sure, pay CVS $10 a month, even if I'm not using it. Whatever, $5, whatever that thing is that they have. And when things shift, what you do is you go, oh, you know what? It's worth making a call to cancel that, or paying someone else to make a call to cancel that. However that works, right? And it's the same thing as agents. What are your expenses? Take a look at those. Where are you wasting money? Because most people are. And I'm not saying, hey, this is your Starbucks a day. I just don't know that most people are having a Starbucks a day. And if you are, that's a great place to look. It used to drive me nuts before I was a realtor, looking at buying a home and seeing all these things. And when I was starting my business and I'm looking at things and they give advice that I feel is very flippant, I think you really need to take a look at your things. Call your insurance company. See if you can get a deal. Call your internet. See if you can cut that. And while you're doing that, from a business very specific, not just expense related, what are you doing to make sure you keep consistent business coming in? When's the last time you talked to your clients? Truly, the ones who aren't in the middle of a transaction. Because that is where most of my business came from. People who knew and loved me as a realtor, as a person, and were like, hey, we want to send people your way. And that makes a world of a difference. That is the way, from my perspective, if I were to go back in sales today, I would feel very confident that I could pick up from that. I would need to rebuild momentum, and I would be able to do that because I would reach out to my people.
Nikki Chambless is crushing it right now, guys. Team leader, Keller Williams Alliance. Carol Thorpe, we'll get to your comment here in moments. This is from Jennifer Carini on Spotify, and she makes a point that's in agreement with you. To Nikki's point, there are 0 homes on the market right now in Redfields, and that's a neighborhood we're looking at. Redfields is a neighborhood I previously lived in, and it's south side of Charlottesville near Wegmans down 5th Street Extended, and it is just a phenomenal neighborhood. And it's that price point, that's that $375 to call it $6 price point, where you have a lot of 2-income families, often ties to the University of Virginia, and they just preserve value and they turn very quickly. Here's a good comment from Carol Thorpe. Queen of Jack Jewett for Nikki Chambless. I have a nice house in Mill Creek, which will be ready to put on the market by January 1. It is an inheritance and not my family residence, so I have the luxury of selling it whenever I like. Do you think it is better for me to sell it ASAP to play beat the Fed for the next rate hike, or is there any advantage to holding out for the spring market or beyond? Carol Thorpe, excellent question.
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that really depends on what your needs are. It sounds like, and this is like, it's hard to give that one-on-one advice without sitting down and having a conversation with you, right? So I would like to say that the disclaimer is I don't know enough to answer your question, truly.
I can give you a little background on the Thorpes. Financially stable, fantastic family. She alludes to it being an inheritance, so it's not the primary residence. From what I know of this fantastic family, they don't need to sell this for the cash immediately. They're in a good position financially. So patience is a luxury for the Thorpes right now.
Yes, but how it sounds like between now and January. So like it's not a hold as a rental and then potentially sell later, right? If it were me and I were working to sell a house that I owned, I would probably go now before the rate, knowing that I don't know for sure that that's the best time. Because it's very uncertain. There was a period of time where, like during COVID, we felt very certain that things were still going to increase. And then there was a time where we're like, oh, it's definitely going to level out. And right now, understanding where that's going to go exactly, it's really unclear. I could sit here and throw out numbers and statistics and try to make something of it. And the reality is anybody who does that, we're making best guesses, which is really all it is. But even more so in my mind than last year when we were talking about the increase. To me, that was easier to read, engage, and calculate than right now when we're looking at between now and January. No, I think at the beginning of next year, it'll be easier to see a little further in the future. But because we're so in the midst of such a huge change, it's really hard to tell. And if it were me, I would go for now.
Would you sell
on the bet?
Mill Creek home, she doesn't need to live in it. That sounds like $2,500 to $3,000 a month in rent all day, every day.
Well,
we're talking what, 30 G's to 36K?
She didn't offer rental as an option, right?
Yeah, would you consider renting it, Carol? I mean, you're looking at $30,000 to $36,000 a year right there in rent.
I mean, we have Ally Property Management. Suzanne is amazing.
Suzanne's amazing.
and Max, her intern, who is fantastic. And truly, as much as I want more homes in the market, and I have some of my realtor friends who are like, Nikki, would you please stop telling people to keep investments? I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't not share that.
I mean, yeah.
Because it's about the best interest of other people.
Right.
I just can't not recommend that. And it's not going to be everybody's thing to do right now.
No.
So it'll be okay.
And the rental game's not for everybody. If it was easy,
not.
Everybody would be a landlord. It's not easy. But it does pay dividends.
True.
I mean, it's not for everybody. It's a matter of risk tolerance that not everybody has, and that's okay.
It is totally okay.
Right?
But whatever it is you're doing, you need to do something to plan for your future. And if right now the future is too far to think about, what are you doing to plan for today and tomorrow? And then broaden that, right? Whether you're a homeowner, whether you're not, whether it's investing, what are you doing right now?
Are you still seeing the expansion of footprint for properties? Are people still looking, Valley, Augusta, Stanton, Buckingham for price point?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That is still happening. I think to some degree that will always be the case. I just think the stress level of it has definitely, I mean, we all know we're feeling it. It's truly palpable. It is lessened. Even just walking around town, right? There's a different feel.
Yeah. How do you characterize that feel?
I think there's an edge of nervousness, but I think there's more relaxed. I think people are starting to feel safer about all the things, even though it is a leveling, and that means if you wanted that top dollar, you might have missed that right now.
Yeah.
It might be a while before that happens again. Who knows? These things are cyclical in long-term pictures, right?
But one thing to highlight for those that feel they missed out on the top dollar sale, if you're selling your house, you're going to have to move to somewhere else. So if you're selling your house in a top dollar market, you're buying something in a top dollar market. If you're selling a home in a market that's cooled, you're buying in a home in a market that's cooled.
And now I'm going to play Jerry's role and just go with, yes, that's a positive spin. If you were hoping to sell in the highest and move somewhere that was cheaper in the middle of nowhere, you might have missed your boat.
That's a different circumstance. You missed your boat for that.
That's not most people, because otherwise everyone would have sold everything in the midst of the high point, right?
Right.
That's yeah.
Hindsight's 20/20, you're saying.
Yeah, boy,
don't beat yourself up over that.
No, and you can't live in the past like that either. And you really, it is not worth wasting your time going, oh man, I missed it. Let me still try to get more. You need to reevaluate and look at now and have a clear picture so you're setting yourself up for your best success with selling your home now.
This is a great question from Robert. And Robert is at Northington. He says, oftentimes we see a second surge in the fall with inventory coming on the market. Is Nikki hearing that from her agents and the folks she's interacting with for the fall season?
So I do think there is going to be a little bit of that pickup. That is one of the things that I am hearing, assuming that the things that I'm hearing play out. And I think to a degree they will. So I'm interested, and I'm kind of watching and waiting to see what happens there. I do think that when people come back from summer and they're settling back in, they're going to start re-upping those, oh, I'm looking for houses, or oh, I'm getting ready to list. I'm back from summer vacation, or the kids are back in school and now I can spend time and focus. Because that's a huge part of that summer as well, is the kids are out of school. They went back to school in person for the first year at last year,
Thank
right?
the Lord.
So now we're having that summertime. I mean, it's different, yeah, because the summer before, it just was not a big shift. It's like, oh, my kids are still here, which is lovely. And also, how do we manage life?
Kind of lovely.
Get that, big time.
Most of the time
it's a wonderful challenge, and it's definitely a different challenge than what we're used to handling.
Right.
And it was life-changing for many people.
Right.
There are people who would have been in the workforce that were no longer. There's a lot there, which also changes their ability to buy a home, which maybe now those people who were derailed by virtual school and COVID life are now picking back up to that stability and will be re-entering potentially, right? So there are all these factors. That's probably a much smaller one than things like interest rate and inventory. Obviously, those are the big factors. So
Suzanne Reel's watching.
Oh, yay. Hi, Suzanne.
We love you, Suzanne Reel.
We just plugged you.
Management. We gave you a plug.
I know you're a sponsor, but also.
They're phenomenal. They manage one of ours. Yours as well?
Oh, yes, she manages mine.
Yeah.
And I was a holdout. I was like, I'm going to manage my own. I don't need anyone. And then I realized I did.
Totally worth it. Carol follows up for Nikki. The home in Mill Creek would sell easily for $400,000. I don't really want to be a landlord. A family member is living in the house rent-free as a helpful gift, but she's going to be out by Halloween, and then they have a decision to make.
Okay, so that's
$400K
the Halloween
in Mill
aspect
Creek
is an important aspect to know. Because if out by Halloween, that means not listing until mid-November, and now you're in the holidays.
Probably want to wait till
waiting till
spring.
Yeah. Yep. And whoever your realtor is, talk to them now. Let them be prepped. Have these conversations with them so they can actually cancel your specific situation. That's wildly important.
$400,000 in Mill Creek sells all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially
if
it's in good condition.
That definitely changes the conversation.
Yeah.
See, and these are the pieces you don't know until you really dig in with somebody one-on-one in person.
Because she's saying it's the back end of Q4.
Yep.
And the back end of Q4 with Thanksgiving, New Year's, and Christmas is a different ballgame.
And at that point, the fact that you're not urgent, regardless of the market, makes
she's
it not worth
spot.
it to you. Well, but November, even if that were a great time, it's not worth it. You've got Thanksgiving and holidays and all the things. Just wait.
Suzanne says, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the props.
Yeah.
We love you, Suzanne. Don't you love the show? It's so interactive. We have people from
I love that about the show so much.
Yeah. It's good. And it keeps you on your toes, right? I mean, we came in here with no plan. We're like, let's see where the feed takes us. And the feed's on fire right now.
Well, the plan is we're going to talk about real estate.
We're going to talk
about the market of the moment, which is what we do every time. And I know that we're going to have so much engagement, we're not going to be able to get to every question, even with it being the two of us. We certainly don't have time to get to all the questions when we've got the whole full panel going on.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
This is amazing.
You're killing it. Nicholas Erpy, the CMO of Emergent Financial Services, watching the program. Suzanne says, I love this show. She very much loves when Nikki is on the program.
Well, and I will say, even before I was on the program, I would catch snippets of the show on and off running around helping clients. And it was a really nice thing to be able to hear this conversation around real estate. I send it to people I know and love. I send it to past and potential future clients that I refer, right? There's all sorts of value here. And I recommend to anybody, I'm like, this helps. When I can send a video of, like, for example, what was the great, oh my gosh, when I had Katie Pearl and Jason Kirby here, and we were talking about so many things, and Katie's aspect of that military spouse life, and my history with being military, that was an amazing conversation. And anytime that someone out there needs to know more about that, that's a video I can just send a link to and be like, hey, I think this is going to be really helpful for you. That's a whole another level of not only are you saying these things, but someone else validating what you're trying to share.
Kevin Higgins, the king of Greenwood, Old Trail in Crozet, is currently building a 6-story apartment building, and it's in the country. Is the future in our area vertical? I don't understand how it isn't unless someone starts building caves. We should throw in there. Why don't
I'm here for that Hobbit house. I'm just saying.
Let's throw in attached inventory and your thoughts on attached inventory market, condos, townhomes, in today's climate.
Well, so you're focusing it in a slightly different way because he's talking about up and you're talking about attached. And to me, those are not necessarily the same thing. I think attached is needed. I think that is part of helping with our affordable housing challenge. I think being able to have a smaller footprint while still offering a wonderful space and a great environment with trees and grass and green things is wildly important, and I think it's doable. I don't have great examples off the top of my head, but I know that there are places who have done this and done this well, and I think it's really important that we as a community really voice that that's what we want. And I know there are some people who do not, but I also think sometimes the louder people are also not the majority.
Carol Thorpe says, appreciate the advice. We've identified now January 1 as the start to allow time to prepare for the house and to get past the holidays. We're going to put your advice into play. Sounds like there's something coming on the market in Mill Creek for about $400,000 in Q1 of next year, thanks to Nikki Chambless' consultation here.
And if you don't have someone, I have 120 people that I can choose who I think is a great fit for you.
I love it. I love it. Always be closing over there, Chambless. She's doing a hell of a job right here. Time is flying, my friend. Neil Williamson says, yes, more housing everywhere for everyone. More housing everywhere for everyone from Neil.
What more needs to be said about that, right? We don't have enough housing. We know that.
You're getting props from a lot of people over here. So the expectation, the market,
yes.
I'm trying to read between, you've been very clear about this. You expect the market to be a little bit cool throughout the summer, maybe an uptick in the fall as people return to school and come back to the area, then potentially a cooling off come holidays, and we will really see how strong the market is at the end of the first quarter of next year.
Yes. We're not going to magically have inventory appear, right? There's just not enough that can be built fast enough, right? So I think we're going back to a more normal market, and still that lower inventory, maybe a little lower than the previous normal market, but that's still much better than what we've had as far as availability and ability to compete, right? So to me, that's kind of what I'm thinking and where I'm leaning. Not everybody rushing in and all that competition. I just think it's going to be a wonderful thing. And if we can help those people that it is still harder for, especially in that lower priced end of the market, just kind of reevaluate the way that we're looking at purchasing real estate. Yes, you can still do it, and it's not quite as easy. It's still simple, but it is most definitely harder, and it is achievable. You have to have a little bit of a longer term plan for that, though.
This is a great question. This is a lot to unpack on this question here.
Okay.
Stephanie, watching the program. You guys talked about the jumbo market and into the luxury market. Yes, the inventory is not moving as fast, but with the cost of construction so expensive, won't these homes preserve their values because of the cost to build something brand new is astronomical? Lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm not sure I have really great direction to go with that, because I think that's a really great point, and truly, I don't even know that I've considered that yet. I may need to let that marinate a little bit, because you're right, the cost of construction is still really high.
Astronomical. Cost of land higher than ever.
Yes,
tough to find
most
labor.
Definitely. Well,
cost
and that's
of
gonna.
goods.
Some of that's gonna also calm down, right? Especially that cost of land, right? A little bit.
Hope.
Not We're not going to drop, right? We're not saying words like drop because that's just not a thing.
A quarter acre, half acre in Albemarle County tends to hold its value pretty well.
It does, but it's not going to have the same competition. That's probably the perspective that I need to go with there more than, because you're right. If you look historically at any given, the land value separate of even, let's use the tax assessment, right? It is not how you want to price your home, but it is a metric that you can use to gauge some data.
Yeah.
So if you just look at that land value, I think maybe I've seen one time, and I don't remember which year frame it was, where there was a drop, but the rest it stayed consistent or increased, right? Yeah.
So
I don't know how to unpack that. I'm sorry.
I would say, I'll throw this to you here.
But I do want to let that marinate because I don't want to not talk about it.
With the builders we're representing with V&V Brands, our builder clients have said that it's as expensive as it's ever been to build a home. And that's if you can even find the trades and the labor to build the house. One of our clients is advertising, is it a general labor position? Is that what the position is that he's advertising that he cannot fill? I believe it's general laborer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, general labor cannot fill the position. So because he can't fill the position, he's having to increase pay to try to get guys on site.
Yes.
And he says when he increased pay, that cost is passed on to the consumer. Cost of goods passed on to the consumer. So building a home more expensive than ever, certainly as rates are rising, what's that going to do for value of luxury inventory, existing luxury inventory? You would hope it's going to preserve its value, right?
Well, to a very large degree, all of our inventory is preserving its value, right? It's just a matter of it's not going to keep skyrocketing. When we're seeing those price drops, remember that's countering an interest hike. So really, that to me, yes, it's sometimes a drop, but it's not even really a drop in increase of value. Historically, if you take a look at that, everything is still going up. Even if there is a small release of things, it's still going to be small minimum. I think that upper end is going to be fine. I think historically it has been fine. I think we're just going to go back to seeing much longer days on the market for that group of properties, maybe not quite as long as it had been before because of what we're talking about with that higher cost of construction, right? Does that... Again, I'm thinking this through as we're talking, so I'm not quite as clear as a lot of the other conversations that we've had. But I think you're right. I think that will impact things. So yes, it will slow. There will be breathing room, and it probably will not slow back to what it had because of those higher cost of new builds.
This is an interesting question. Is today's consumer more educated and up to speed than ever before, Nikki?
To a very large degree, yes, and some of that needs guiding, right? Because a lot of times the things that we think we know, and I speak from personal experience, I'm not calling anyone out at all, but the things that we think we know from an outside perspective when we don't do it every day, sometimes does not quite match the day-to-day, or it's missing some pieces or needs some tweaking. I have found that buyers and sellers are much more educated as to what is needed in real estate in the market than I have ever seen before, and I love that personally. Earlier in the show, we talked about that means I can have a whole different level of conversation. And really what it does is it ups the value, the intelligence gained there of being able to
just take
a broader look.
Take Real Talk.
Oh, yeah.
3 days a week.
Yes.
An
Somebody
hour
can
plus
learn
of content
so much.
Talking about the market. You're an expert.
It's incredible.
3 days plus a week, we have experts talking about the market for you to learn.
Yes. And truly the difference that makes. And people have been looking online for so long. Because remember, pre-online, that was a whole different ballgame. The information, the data, the things to know were not accessible. It was very restricted. Personally, I love a market where the information is out there and valuable and people can know more.
Me too.
That is a whole different level of being able to help someone. It makes life better, not worse.
You're crushing it
I want
today.
educated people.
Candace F. Cox says, great point, Nikki.
Candace.
You are crushing it right now.
She's one of my agents.
You are absolutely crushing it right now. All right, why don't we do this? With some agents watching the program, what's the advice you guys are giving to the agents?
Oh gosh. Okay, so really,
because you're doing this tomorrow.
Yes. Right? Well, we're doing this every day right now.
Okay.
Truly, this is the conversation we are having day in, day out.
Are we going to hear
Tuesday
part of tomorrow's speech right now? I would love to hear part of what you're doing.
No.
She's looked up to in the firm.
Well, so you're not going to hear what I'm doing tomorrow.
Because you're part of the close portion, right?
I am.
Yeah.
So I am part of our actual numbers looking at the whole year. And some of that we'll probably share publicly, but that'll be like, a whole marketing campaign because we're running a business here, right?
You want agents at KWA. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what you're talking about. Yes. And I want things to be a win-win and a great fit for people. And I think there's a lot that people have to offer out there. So tomorrow afternoon, a lot of what we're talking about is, we have an amazing guest, Joe Martin. He's a Keller Williams amazing person, great person regardless of where his license hangs, right? And he is our regional, regional director, regional something director, area director, there we go. And he's actually going to be covering 2 of those 3 hours, and I'm really grateful that he's able to do that because one of the things that I love hearing him speak to is being able to tell your story. What is your story? What is your value proposition? Because I don't think that as realtors we do that well enough. Actually, I know that we don't do that well enough because not only am I talking to agents on a regular basis, I talk to the community on a regular basis as well. And I will tell you, we are not telling our value story well enough at all. And for the last 2 years, we didn't need to. And now we do.
Yeah.
So what is your value proposition? What are you doing? What is it that you bring to the table? We just talked about buyers and sellers being more educated than ever, right? Which truly is a great thing. But it means you really need to be able to share what it is you're bringing to the table as a realtor. And you can be bringing plenty to the table that is needed and valuable and helpful for those buyers and sellers. I would never want anyone to do that without a trusted advisor because I have helped pick up the pieces from that happening. And one of my most challenging listings ever was from a transaction that happened between family members. And there was so much that was missed because there were steps that they did not go through that are part of the process. And it was truly a nightmare for my seller clients. And I was able to help them through that and handhold through that and shift and adjust. And it was amazing. Had they not had that, they would not have been able to buy that next house that they were already under contract for, that they got. And to them, that was their forever home. We'll see if that happens because sometimes life changes, but they would have missed out on what they viewed as their dream forever home. So we need to bring our value. We need to tell our story better, and that's one of the things we're going to cover. And there's so many. Can I plug a book? So this is an amazing book. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. And for those who are listening, I'm holding up a book. It is called Shift: How Top Real Estate Agents Tackle Tough Times. And it is by Gary Keller. Yes, he is the KW guy. I think he's great. He shares some amazing truth and knowledge on various platforms all the time. So he is out in the real estate world. But this is an amazing book. Most people are familiar with the Real Estate Millionaire Agent. Wait, did I say that in the right order? I don't know. The Red Book.
Yeah.
And it's, again, Gary Keller. Great book. But these are books
that
are open to.
Books?
So I haven't read them yet, but I listen to him sometimes.
Oh,
I have my stack of books to read is incredible, and I'm starting to
You can borrow mine.
Browse through.
Do you have a copy?
No, I will totally borrow yours.
It's phenomenal.
Thank you. That would be great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
But so the Red Book, right, and the Shift book, they're available and applicable to all agents, not just KW agents. This is a value add for your real estate business, period, regardless of where you are, regardless of market. And that Red Book, it's great. It is timeless. The Shift book, it is amazing and it is timely, and it is the information you need right now. So when I'm talking about sharing your value, there's a whole chapter in this that talks about that, right? Earlier in this show, we were talking about being focused in of how are you connecting with your people? You know, from a business perspective, we often call that your database, right? How are you connecting with them? Because you need to be. Are they hearing from you at least 36 times in a year through various means? Emails, texts, calls, a social event, a coffee? How are you connecting to people? Because this is a people business.
I love it. 2 more comments here. Nikki Chambless, absolutely on fire today. You crushed it. This is a good question. Any sense on the level of people with adjustable rate mortgages in this area? That killed real estate in 2008, and in my humble opinion, should be on the radar now. That's from
So I
Mr.
will
Higgins.
say, I feel like what killed real estate in 2008 were mortgages being handed out like they were being passed out from a Cracker Jack box, right?
Yeah.
Like truly. And there are a lot of pieces to that, but I think we all can agree that it is the process to get a mortgage is much, much harder.
Oh my gosh.
Than it was in 2008.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that is a hurdle that is really hard to jump over. So I have a really hard time seeing that. And I think people need to be smart with it. So if the conversation that you're having with people when you're talking about an ARM is just do it, that's not an intelligent conversation. What needs to be happening is taking a look at a person's individual situation and evaluating the risks and deciding what does that actually look like. If to me this is a risk level that's here, right? Oh, I'm doing my hand in a place. People are listening. You can't see me. But if it's at one point and your risk aversion is lower than that, then that's a no, period, just for your own sanity. It doesn't matter if it might be a better option. You have to live with this decision. Not me, not your lender, not anyone else, not your mom, not your dad. Love your mom and dad, but also you might want to make sure that the advice you're getting, you know, your cousin who's a lawyer, who doesn't live in our area, all these things are things that happen on a regular basis and then some. So when you're looking at an adjustable rate mortgage, it really needs to be a matter of evaluating your risks.
Well said. Very well said. Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro, we've dubbed him the king of Waynesboro. Builders need to realize lumber is a finite resource. More needs to be done with the amount of lumber being introduced to the landfills. And that was a follow-up to the cost of goods being astronomically expensive for new construction. Nikki Chambless, you were absolutely on fire today.
Well, thank you so much.
Seriously.
I love being here. This is amazing. Truly.
An hour and 10
I love
minutes
this
flew
so
by.
much. Okay, so I just want to do a little comment to that last
Please.
comment, though, because there are so many amazing creative ways that people are working to find better ways to build houses and to build them better and less expensive. But our laws and our regulations are dinosaurs, right? Our codes, they don't factor in things that could be amazing. And I don't know what the answer there is, but I did want to say that out loud while that conversation was happening. That is one of those things that has to change. We are living in 2022. It is not 1950. It is not 1980. Those years are way further away than I would like to admit. I'm just putting that out there too. And yet, our growth around how these things are done is still back there, right?
Well said.
It's 2022. Yeah, I said that right, just checking. Almost 2023 as far as I'm concerned. I know it's only July. Sorry, I don't mean to freak you out.
Well said.
Yeah, we have some catching up to do.
Nikki Chambless, guys, for the agents that are watching the program, if you want the hottest ticket in town, it's an afternoon with the Keller Williams team post-award show and then a networking event at Matchbox in Stonefield.
Yes.
They should reach out to you.
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, you know what? Let me give you an email really quick. That reach out, however, we've got our office number, right? 220-2200. But also win, W-I-N, at KWA CVille, CVille.com. So win at KWACVille.com is a great general email where someone will get that and be able to get you a ticket, get you signed up, and confirm that that's what you want. You can also find me. I have a, Nikki Chambless Realtor Team Leader page that I track really, really well, and it's easy to find me because you're probably
all over
already
social.
on there.
Yeah, you're quick to
I'm
respond.
all over social.
You're all over social.
So if you're having a hard time or you didn't write
Just
that down,
DM her.
just find me,
Yeah,
Nikki
you're all over.
Chambless.
Yeah. Yeah,
it is
she's
not
great
hard
at
to
it.
find me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Higgins said your answer will add an hour of solid sleep for me tonight. Thank you, Nikki
I don't know which
Chambless.
one, but I'm so glad I could do that,
Yeah,
truly.
that was
because,
great.
yeah, that's awesome.
So good. Nikki Chambless, guys, team leader, Keller Williams Alliance, just all around A-plus people. Judah Wickhauer is the director of the show. Real Talk, presented by Keller Williams Alliance. Love that name, Keller Williams Alliance. My name is Jerry Miller. You crushed it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Judah,
love this.
our moral and infrastructure and digital compass over there.
Makes it all happen.
Judah and I are back in approximately 1 hour for the I Love CVille show, guys. Join us. Thank you kindly for watching Real Talk. We'll see you in an hour and change for the I Love CVille show. Take care. Well done, Nikki. That was great.
That was so much fun.
That was fluid. Right?
I can talk.